Hey! Hey, bitch! Those were the first words Officer Derek Callum said to Senna Park. Nom. Not miss. Not even a professional excuse for why he had pulled her over. Just those two words, delivered through her car window with the flat confidence of a man who had never once been made to answer for anything he had ever said or done in his life. Senna turned her head slowly and looked at him. He was leaning against her car door, one forearm resting on the roof, body angled toward her window in a way that was less about authority and more about possession. He had the kind of face that had probably been handsome once and had since been ruined by years of its own expressions. Aviator sunglasses. Square jaw. A badge sitting on his chest like a permission slip. I said hey, he said again, louder this time, like she hadn't heard. Like she was slow. Step out. Senna did not move immediately. On what basis, she said. Derek's lip curled. On the basis that I've got a badge and you've got an attitude, he said. Step out of the vehicle. Now. She opened the door slowly, carefully, the way you open a door when you know that the wrong movement, the wrong speed, the wrong expression on your face could be used against you. She stepped out with her hands visible. Derek didn't step back to give her room. He stayed exactly where he was so that when she straightened up she was less than a foot away from him and had to take a step back herself just to have air. He smiled at that. License and registration, he said. I already handed you my documents, Senna said. Hand them again. She went back to the car. Retrieved the documents from the passenger seat. Handed them over. Derek took them without looking at them. He was looking at her. You live around here, he said. Riverside District, she said. Long way from home. It's 12 minutes away. He flipped open the documents. Still not really reading them. His eyes kept coming back to her. You got anything in the vehicle, he said. Drugs. Weapons. Anything I should know about? Nothing, she said. Mind if I take a look? She held his gaze. I would like to know your probable cause before. Derek was already moving around her to the trunk. He didn't wait for an answer. He didn't ask. He just moved, like the question had been a formality he was already done with. Sir, she said, following him. You cannot search my vehicle without. He popped the trunk open himself. Not with her permission. Just with his hands, just like that, like it was his car and she was standing in the way. The trunk contained her camera bag, a folded tripod, a small cooler, and a sweater. Derek reached in and unzipped the camera bag. He pulled out her Canon, the one she had spent for months saving for, and held it up with one hand like it was a piece of evidence at a yard sale. What's this? He said. It's a camera, she said. You a photographer? Yes. He turned it over. Tipped it sideways. His grip was careless and deliberate at the same time. Please handle that carefully, she said. That equipment is. He set it down on the edge of the trunk. The very edge. 1 inch from falling. She stared at it. Step over here, he said. She didn't move. I said step over here. She took one step toward him. Derek moved alongside her, shoulder to shoulder, and reached past her into the trunk, his chest pressing against her arm. He left it there. The contact. Just left it there like it was nothing, like gravity had simply placed him there and it had nothing to do with him. Senna shifted away. Stay still, he said. I'd like you to give me space, please, she said. I'm conducting a search. Stay still. He straightened up. And then without preamble, without warning, without any performance of procedure at all, his hand moved to her waist. Not brushing past. Not accidental. His hand went to her waist and rested there, fingers pressing slightly, like he was steadying her, like she had asked for it. The world went very quiet. Senna looked down at his hand. Then she grabbed his wrist and shoved it away from her body. Do not put your hands on me, she said. Her voice was loud and clear and she meant every single syllable of it. Derek's face changed in an instant. The lazy amusement disappeared. The performance of boredom disappeared. What replaced it was something cold and practiced and fast. He stepped back with his arms spread wide. Did you see that? He said, loud now, projecting to an audience that was already watching from the sidewalk and across the street. She just grabbed me. You see that, Hollins? She put her hands on me. Sergeant Ray Hollins, who had been standing by the patrol car with his arms crossed and his eyes on the middle distance, looked up. His jaw tightened for one brief honest second. Yeah, he said. I saw it. That is a lie, Senna said, turning to face Hollins directly. He put his hand on my waist during an unconsented search and I removed it. That is what happened. Hollins stared at the ground. Turn around, Derek said. He was already moving behind her. Hands behind your back. On what charge? She said. Assaulting an officer. I did not assault you. I defended myself from an inappropriate. He grabbed her wrists. Both of them at once, from behind, hard enough that she felt it. I am not resisting, she said immediately. Loudly. I am not resisting. My name is Senna Park. I live at 14 Riverside Gardens. This officer placed his hand on my waist without consent and I pushed it away. I am not resisting. Derek clicked the cuffs on and leaned down to her ear. Say whatever you want, sweetheart, he said. Badge 4412. File your little complaint. See what happens. He walked her to the patrol car. Not gently. His hand on her upper arm, steering her the way you steer someone whose dignity you have already decided does not matter. Raymond, 68 years old, a retired schoolteacher who had stopped on the sidewalk on his way back from the pharmacy, stood with a paper bag pressed to his chest and watched all of it. Two teenage girls had frozen across the street. One of them had her phone raised. A woman pushing a stroller had backed up against a wall without fully realizing she had done it. Derek opened the rear door of the patrol car and put his hand on top of Senna's head the way police do when they put someone in a car. A gesture that manages to be both procedural and humiliating at the same time. Before the door shut, Senna turned her face to the window and found Raymond's eyes across the street. He gave her the smallest nod. She held his gaze until the car pulled away. Raymond stood on the sidewalk for a long moment after the patrol car disappeared. Then he pulled out his phone and dialed. Not the police. Someone else. His lips moved. His eye stayed on the spot where the car had been. Now go back. Rewind. Because this is not where the day began. This is not who this day was supposed to be. 2 hours before those words were spoken through her car window, Senna Park was standing in front of her open wardrobe in a towel, phone wedged between her ear and her shoulder, arguing cheerfully with a client about lighting conditions at a community center. I'm telling you the lighting is going to be terrible, she said. I've been inside that building. It has fluorescent tubes and a window that faces a brick wall. Her client laughed on the other end. Senna, I know, but the council confirmed it and we can't move the venue. Can you make it work? I can make anything work, Senna said. I just want credit when the photos are beautiful despite the conditions. You'll get a glowing testimonial and a gift basket. Make it a big gift basket. Done. See you Thursday. She hung up. Tossed the phone onto the bed. Pulled out a white linen blouse and held it against herself in the mirror. From the kitchen the smell of coffee drifted in. Her mother's voice followed it. "Y.A. baboon," Mrs. Park called from the kitchen in Korean. "Myoko Gaya G. Hey. Food. You need to eat before you go." "I'll eat on the way, Ioma," Senna called back, already pulling on the blouse. Mrs. Park appeared in the doorway with a container of rice and a look that had been perfecting itself for 27 years. On the way means a coffee and nothing else, she said. Sit down for 10 minutes. Ioma. 10 minutes, her mother said. The world will still be there. Senna Saturday. Because you don't argue with that look. Not when you are 27 and your mother has crossed an ocean and raised 2 children largely on her own, and she is standing there holding rice and looking at you like you are the most important thing she has ever made. They sat at the small kitchen table together. Mrs. Park had made doenjang jjigae, fermented soybean paste stew, even though it was 11 in the morning. She ladled it into a bowl and set it in front of Senna without ceremony. You don't have to cook for me, Ioma, Senna said. You're supposed to be visiting, not feeding me. Visiting is cooking, her mother said, sitting down with her own bowl. That's what visiting is. Senna ate. It was, as always, exactly what she needed. How is the new project going? Her mother asked. Really well, Senna said. The community portrait series. I found 3 more families last week. There's this grandmother on the east side. 84 years old. Came here from Oaxaca in 1987. She has a face that, Ioma, I cannot even describe it. Every single thing she's ever been through is right there on her face. Waiting to be seen. Mrs. Park watched her daughter with the quiet satisfaction of a mother watching a child do exactly what they were made to do. And Jake, her mother said, after a moment. You've seen him recently? Senna's expression shifted. Warmth and complexity and fond resignation all at once. Last week, she said. He fed me a 7-course meal and tried to convince me to let him buy me a new camera lens. I said no. He said he'd buy it anyway and call it a gift. I said that's not how gifts work. He said it is when he gives them. Mrs. Park laughed. A real one. He's been saying that since he was 12, she said. He was right at 12, Senna said. He's still right now. It's very annoying. He worries about you, her mother said, softer now. You know that. I know. He doesn't always show it the way other people show it. Ioma, Senna said. I know. A beat. Comfortable silence. The sound of spoons against bowls. Outside, a bird somewhere. The city doing its ordinary morning thing. Finish your stew, her mother said. Senna emerged onto the street a little while later into a beautiful day. The kind of day that makes a city feel like it was designed specifically for you. Warm but not hot. Blue sky with that quality of light that photographers notice and everyone else just enjoys without knowing why. Her neighbor Mr. Chen, somewhere in his 70s, a retired engineer who grew tomatoes on his balcony and gave unsolicited but consistently accurate opinions on everything, leaned over his ground floor railing. You're going out without an umbrella again, he said. It's not going to rain, Mr. Chen. My knee says otherwise. Your knee has been saying otherwise every Tuesday for 3 years and it has been wrong every single time. He waved his hand. One day it'll be right, he said. Then you'll owe me an apology. Senna was already walking toward her car, grinning back at him. I'll bring a very nice umbrella to the apology, she called. With a wooden handle, he said. None of those folding ones. They're for people who can't commit. She laughed and got into her car. She drove with the music on and the sun coming through the windshield at exactly the right angle. She passed the coffee shop on the corner of Del Mar and pulled over without fully planning to because the chalkboard sign outside said today's special, lavender honey latte, and below that in smaller letters it said yes, we know, just try it. Grace, 24 years old, natural hair, paint on her forearms that may or may not have been from that morning, lit up when Senna walked through the door. Senna, she said. I was literally just thinking about you. That's either very nice or slightly alarming, Senna said. Nice, Grace said. Very nice. I saw your print in the Riverside Community Gallery yesterday. The one of the kids playing in the fire hydrant. I stood there for 10 minutes just looking at it. You're going to make me like you even more, Senna said, and then you'll have power over me. Grace was already making her order. Oat latte, 2 shots, no sugar, she said. You're a genius, Senna said. Grace leaned on the counter while the machine worked. I've been meaning to ask, she said. Are you still looking for subjects for the portrait series? My grandmother keeps saying she has nothing interesting about her, and I keep telling her she grew up in Lagos and survived for completely different versions of her own country's history, and she says that's just normal. That is the opposite of not interesting, Senna said. Tell her I would love to meet her. Okay, but fair warning, Grace said. She will feed you. It is non-negotiable. You cannot leave her house without eating something. My mother is the same way, Senna said. I've made peace with it. Grace slid the coffee across the counter. I added a sprinkle of cardamom, she said. Tell me what you think. Senna took a sip. Put it on the menu, she said. Grace beamed. I've been trying to convince the owner for a month. Can I tell him a professional said too? Tell him a professional insisted, Senna said. She paid and waved and walked out into the sun. She didn't know what was waiting for her on Eastfield Avenue. She was simply alive, on a Tuesday, doing what she loved in a city she had learned to navigate on her own terms. 3 more blocks. 2. And then the lights appeared in her rearview mirror. Red and blue. No siren. Just lights. And just like that the day changed. Now we are back. Senna in the back of the patrol car. Metal cuffs on her wrists. The city moving past the window as they drove south on Morris and turned left on Canton. The dashboard clock reading 2:51 p.m. She catalogued everything. The route. The time. The tape over the dashcam indicator light. Of course. Hollins sat in the passenger seat staring out the window with the studied blankness of a man who had become an expert at not witnessing things. I'd like to invoke my right to an attorney, Senna said. Silence. I am formally requesting access to legal counsel, she said. I want that noted. You'll get your call at the station, Derek said. I'm requesting it right now, she said. In this vehicle. At 2:52 p.m. I want the time documented. Derek's eyes found hers in the rearview mirror. He said nothing. Senna turned back to the window and began composing, in perfect sequence, every detail she would tell Diana Kwon. The precinct's front desk was staffed by Officer Pete, 26 years old, 3 months on the job, with the slightly dazed look of someone who was still discovering the gap between what he was trained to do and what the people around him actually did. He looked up as Derek walked Senna in. What have we got? He said. Assault on an officer, Derek said. Senna Park. Eastfield stop about 40 minutes ago. Pete looked at Senna. She met his gaze evenly. He looked away first. Any injuries to the officer? Pete asked. She grabbed my arm, Derek said after a small pause. Bruising possible. I removed his hand from my waist during an unconsented search, Senna said quietly. That is what happened. Pete typed something. Didn't look up. Does she need medical? He asked. She's fine, Derek said. I'm asking because protocol says. She's fine, Pete. Pete kept typing. His jaw was tight. He typed something extra. Something more than the form required. Officer Petrowski, Senna said, reading his nameplate. I am requesting access to a phone to contact my attorney. I am making that request now, at 3:04 p.m. I would like it documented. Pete glanced at Derek. Derek shook his head. A small, barely visible no. Pete looked at Senna. Something moved across his face. The kind of thing that moves across a person's face when they are deciding in real time what kind of person they are going to be. I'll get you to processing, he said. You'll get your call. We're a little backed up, Derek said. Protocol is protocol, Pete said, still typing, not looking at Derek. She gets her call. A beat of tension. Derek looked at Pete for one long extra second. Pete kept typing. In the processing room, Pete handled everything with the careful formality of someone determined to do the job correctly. When Senna pointed out that Officer Callum had not properly read her rights, Pete picked up the laminated card from the counter and read them to her in full. Every word. Properly. When he finished, Senna said thank you. He almost said something. She could see it. Something real and unsanctioned sitting right behind his professional expression. Instead, he said he would get her to a phone as soon as they were done. Officer Petrowski, she said. He looked up. The dash cam on the patrol vehicle, she said. Is it functioning? His expression flickered. There was tape over the indicator light, she said. Someone covered it. I noticed before I got in the car. I'm just making sure you know that I noticed. He wrote something on the form. She couldn't see what. But she watched him write it and she noted the deliberateness of it, the small quiet act of a man choosing to leave a record. The holding cell was small and warm and smelled of industrial cleaning fluid doing battle with everything it could not clean. Donna was already there. A heavy-set woman in her mid-50s reading a worn paperback novel with the focused enjoyment of someone who had learned to find comfort wherever she was placed. She looked up when Senna was walked in. Sit in the middle of the bench, she said. Left side has a bolt sticking up. Senna sat in the middle. What did they get you for? Donna asked, back to her book. Assault on an officer, Senna said. Which I didn't commit. Donna set the book fully down. She looked at Senna with the complete attention of a woman who had heard many things in her life and knew exactly which ones deserved it. He put his hands on you, Donna said. It wasn't a question. He put his hand on my waist, Senna said. I pushed it away. He called it assault. Donna looked at her for a moment. Then she looked at the cell door. Then she stood up, walked over, and knocked on it with the flat of her palm. 3 times. Loud and even. Hey, she called out. The woman in here needs her phone call. She's been asking since she walked in. You want to do this right, or do you want her lawyer standing in front of a judge next week talking about unlawful denial of counsel? Your choice. Footsteps in the hallway. The slot in the door opened. Pete's face appeared. He looked at Senna. He looked at Donna. He went away. He came back 2 minutes later with a phone. Donna sat back down and opened her book. You've done this before, Senna said. Done what? Donna said. Advocated for someone in here. Donna turned a page. I've been in rooms like this enough times to know that quiet gets you nowhere, she said. You seem like the kind of woman who knows that too but needed a minute to find her footing. She glanced up. Make your call. Senna took the phone. She dialed from memory. It rang twice. Then a voice answered. Calm. Deep. Unmistakably authoritative. Yoboseo, Jake said in Korean. Oppa, Senna said. It's me. The composure she had held for 2 hours cracked just slightly. Just enough that he could hear it. Where are you? He said. His tone had already shifted. Sharpened. Eastfield Precinct, she said. They arrested me. Fabricated charge. A cop pulled me over and she swallowed, he was touching me, Oppa. Pretending to search me. I pushed his hand away and he arrested me for it. Silence on the line. Not the silence of someone processing information. The silence of someone who has already decided what is going to happen and is simply arranging the order of it. Are you hurt? He said. No. I'm okay. I just need Diana here. I need to get out. She'll be there in 20 minutes, Jake said. Don't say anything to anyone. Don't sign anything. Just wait. Okay. You're going to be fine, Senna, he said, very quietly. I promise you. She exhaled. I know, Oppa. I know. The slot in the door opened. Pete's hand reached through. "Time's up," he said. Senna handed the phone back. She returned to the bench. She sat with her hands folded in her lap. Her jaw was tight and her eyes were very bright. Donna watched her from behind the book. "Whoever you called," she said quietly. He sounded scary over the phone. Senna allowed herself a small controlled smile. "He's my brother," she said. Donna nodded slowly. "The good kind of scary or the bad kind," she said. Senna thought about it. "Depends on who you are," she said. Donna went back to her book. "Good," she said. Diana Kwon arrived exactly 18 minutes after the call. She was the kind of woman who made rooms reorganize themselves around her. 50 years old, impeccably dressed in a charcoal blazer and pearl earrings, heels clicking against the linoleum like a countdown to something very unpleasant for whoever stood in her way. She placed her briefcase on the front desk without being invited to. "Diana Kwon, Kwon and Associates," she said. "I'm here for Senna Park." She placed a card on the desk. "I'll need her charge sheet, the arresting officer's full name and badge number, and a copy of any statement she signed." She paused. "She hasn't signed anything, has she?" The desk sergeant blinked. "I'll need to." "I'll also need to speak with her privately and immediately," Diana said, "as is her legal right. And I'll need the name of the watch commander on duty tonight, because we're going to have a conversation about unlawful detention of someone who has been here," she checked her watch, "without access to counsel for approximately 90 minutes. She smiled. "So," she said, "let's begin. What happened in the watch commander's office no one outside that room heard in full. What was visible through the glass was this." Diana spoke. The watch commander, a heavy-set man in his 50s, listened. His expression moved from defensive through uncomfortable and settled somewhere near resigned. Diana placed a document on his desk. He read it. He picked up his phone. Senna was released 40 minutes later. No charges. Donna didn't look up when the cell door opened. But she gave one small satisfied nod. "Tell your brother I said hi," she said. Senna walked out through the front door into the cool evening air. Diana was waiting on the steps. "What happened?" Senna asked. "The watch commander reviewed the situation and determined there was insufficient evidence to proceed," Diana said. The dashcam footage, which Officer Callum apparently neglected to mention, was inconclusive at best and damaging to his version of events at worst. She handed Senna a card. "We'll be filing a formal complaint with Internal Affairs tomorrow morning. I've already drafted it." "Thank you, Diana." "Don't thank me yet," Diana said. She looked at her carefully. "Are you going to see Jake tonight?" "Yes," Senna said. Diana considered this. "Then I'll say this only once," she said. "As your lawyer and not as Jake's. Whatever happens next, make sure it happens on the right side of a line that I can defend." Senna met her eyes. "I understand," she said. A black car pulled up. A driver got out and opened the rear door. Senna got in. Jake Yoon's restaurant was on the surface the most beautiful Korean restaurant in the city. Subdued lighting, hand-poured concrete walls, a carefully curated menu. The kind of place where reservations were made 6 weeks in advance and the waitstaff were paid more than most middle managers. Beneath the surface it was something else entirely. The private dining room on the upper floor was Jake's domain. 3 walls of glass looking out over the city. A single long table. No menus because Jake always knew what everyone was having. He was standing at the window when Senna entered. His back was to her. Dark-fitted suit. No tie. Collar open. His hands were clasped behind his back. He didn't turn around immediately. Marcus stood near the door. He nodded to Senna as she entered. "Nothing more." "Oppa," she said quietly. Jake turned. For one unguarded moment, just one, he looked at her with an expression that had nothing in it except relief. He crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. Senna, who had been composed for 4 hours, made a small sound and grabbed onto him. Jake held her. He didn't say anything for a long moment. "Gwenchana," he said finally, in Korean. "Da Gwenchana. It's okay. Everything's okay." Senna pulled back. Her eyes were wet but she blinked it away. "I'm fine," she said. "I'm not crying." Jake sat her down. Sat across from her. "Tell me everything," he said. So she did. She told it from the beginning. She told him the first words. The exact first words Derek Callum had said to her through her car window. She watched Jake's face when she said them. Nothing visible changed. That was the thing about Jake. Nothing visible ever changed. But something in the room changed. The temperature of it. The quality of the silence. She kept going. The trunk. The camera on the edge. The shoulder. The hand on her waist. When she got to that part, Jake went very still. Not angry in the way that is loud. Angry in the way that is quiet and absolute and has already decided its own outcome. "I pushed his hand away," she said. "I said don't touch me, clearly, and he immediately said I assaulted him." His partner confirmed it on the spot. It was so fast. So practiced. Like he's done it before. Jake was quiet. "I was in that cell for 2 hours, she said. I couldn't do anything. He looked at me like I was nothing. Like I was someone he could do whatever he wanted with and nothing would ever happen to him." She paused. "He was right to think that," she said. "Nothing is going to happen to him through official channels. Diana can file complaints. The system takes months. He'll get a reprimand at best and be back at it by next week with some other woman on some other road who doesn't have an 18-minute lawyer." Jake listened to all of it. Then he picked up his glass of water. Took a sip. Set it down. "What's his name?" he said. "Derek Callum," she said. "Badge 4412. Eastfield Precinct." Jake looked at Marcus. That was all. Just that look. Marcus gave the smallest nod and stepped out of the room without a word. "Are you hungry?" Jake said. "Oppa." "You haven't eaten," he said. "I'll have something brought up." "I want you to do something about it," she said. "I heard you, Senna." She searched his face. "I want him to understand what it feels like," she said. "To be powerless. To have someone bigger than you decide they can touch you and there is nothing, absolutely nothing you can do about it. I want him to know that feeling in his body." A silence. Jake looked at her for a long time. "He'll know," Jake said. He poured her a glass of water and slid it across. "Now eat something," he said. Later that night Jake stood with Marcus in the back of the restaurant kitchen away from the staff. "Derek Callum," Marcus said. "Eastfield Precinct. 5 years on the force. 2 prior complaints, both dismissed. Lives alone on Gracie Street, apartment 7B. Single. No family in the city. Off duty he goes to a bar called Rorke's on Thursday nights." Jake listened. "Does he know who Senna is?" he asked. "He ran her plates and ID at the scene," Marcus said. "Her address is registered in her name. Nothing on record connecting her to us." "Good," Jake said. "I want it to stay that way. Get Tommy on observation. Full schedule. Where he goes, who he meets, his routines. Every day until I know his world better than he does." "You want contact?" Marcus asked. "Not yet," Jake said. "I want patience first." Marcus nodded. "And Marcus," Jake said. "Sir. Nobody touches him without my direct instruction. I mean nobody." "Understood." Over the days that followed, Tommy sat in a parked car across from Eastfield Precinct with a coffee and a small camera and he watched. He watched Derek leave at the end of his shift on Monday, laughing loudly with another officer, slapping him on the back, the body language of a man with no reason to look over his shoulder. He watched Derek at Rourke's bar on Thursday night, sitting at the counter, telling a story to two regulars, and at one point mimicking with his hands the motion of someone being pushed away. The two men laughed. Derek laughed. He ordered another round. He watched Derek at a gas station on Friday morning, filling his tank, and then watching a young woman walk past and following her with his eyes all the way down the block until she turned the corner. He watched Derek jogging at Millgate Park, earphones in, the same loop, the same time, every single morning. Tommy photographed everything and reported back. Jake reviewed the photos spread across his desk. He studied them the way a man studies a map before a long and necessary journey. Consistent schedule, Marcus said. Predictable. No significant security arrangements. He feels completely safe. He should, Jake said. He's been getting away with this for years. He studied a photo of the park. The east end of the jogging loop. Trees on both sides. No cameras. For quiet minutes every morning where Derek Callum was entirely alone with his music and his sense of invulnerability. Saturday, Jake said. Marcus nodded. I want it clean, Jake said. No evidence. No witnesses. And I want him intact enough afterward to do what I'm going to ask him to do. What are you going to ask him? Marcus said. 3 things, Jake said. Saturday morning. 6:48 a.m. The park was quiet. A few dog walkers far in the distance. Birdsong. Pale early light filtering down through the trees. Derek jogged along the east path with his earphones in and his expression blank with the particular vacancy of a man who has never once felt unsafe in the world. He rounded the bend at the east end. The path ahead looked empty. He ran. He passed the line of trees. 2 figures stepped out. One from each side of the path. Not running. Not aggressive in their posture. Just there. Derek slowed. He pulled out one earbud. Hey, he said. His hand went to his hip by reflex. Jogging clothes. No weapon. No badge. A third figure stepped out from directly behind a tree in his path. Marcus. Good morning, Officer Callum, Marcus said. Derek's face changed. Who are you? He said. What are you? That is not important, Marcus said calmly. What's important is that you understand this is not a robbery. We don't want your phone or your watch. We don't want your money. We just want a few minutes of your time. He tilted his head. You're going to come with us quietly, Marcus said. I'm a police officer, Derek said, his voice rising slightly. I know exactly who you are, Marcus said. That's why we're here. The 2 figures stepped closer. Derek looked left. Right. Behind him. No one in sight. His face changed again. The warehouse was spare and clean. No dramatic lighting. No props arranged for effect. Just a table and 2 chairs and the understanding that the men in this room did not need props. Derek sat with his wrists zip-tied to the armrests. Not brutally. Just enough. His jogging clothes looked absurd in that space. His whole version of himself looked absurd in that space. The door opened. Jake Yoon walked in wearing his suit, carrying a glass of water, which he set on the table in front of Derek with a precise, unhurried gesture. He pulled out the chair across from Derek and sat down. Crossed one leg over the other. Took his time. Derek stared at him. You need to let me go right now, Derek said. You have no idea what you're. You pulled over a young woman on Eastfield Avenue last Tuesday, Jake said quietly. Dark hair. White linen blouse. Camera bag in her passenger seat. Derek stopped. You called her a bitch through her car window, Jake said. Before you had even looked at her license. Derek said nothing. You fabricated a reason to stop her, Jake continued. You made her wait on the side of the road for 25 minutes. You opened her trunk without consent. And then you put your hand on her body without her permission. Silence. Her name is Senna Park, Jake said. Something moved in Derek's face. The beginning of understanding. And right behind it, arriving like a cold front, fear. I don't know who you. She's my sister, Jake said. The word landed. Look, Derek said quickly. She assaulted me. That's on record. She made physical contact with. She pushed your hand off her waist, Jake said. He leaned forward slightly. I am a patient man, Officer Callum. I did not come for you the day it happened. I did not come the next day. I gave you a week. To perhaps arrive at the conclusion that what you did required acknowledgement. He paused. You didn't come to that conclusion. Whatever you think you're going to do, Derek said, trying to find footing somewhere, anywhere, you are going to prison. You have kidnapped a police officer. You have had 2 formal complaints filed against you, Jake said, both dismissed through institutional loyalty. You have used your badge as a license for years. You feel invulnerable. He tilted his head slightly. I want you to notice something right now, he said. In this room. You are tied to a chair. You do not know where you are. You do not know who I am, not fully, not yet. And you feel, don't you, a very specific feeling. Derek's jaw was working. That feeling, Jake said. That sense of being held by something you can't control. Of having no power. Of being entirely at someone else's mercy. He let it sit. That is what Senna felt, he said, very quietly. Standing on that road. And then in that cell. Silence. Jake reached into his jacket and placed a photograph on the table. Derek jogging in the park. Then another. Derek at the bar. Then another. Derek outside his apartment building. I know your routine, Jake said. I know your schedule. I know your Thursday nights and your Saturday mornings. That is not a threat. It is information. What I do with information is my choice, and my choices are always intentional. He stood. You have 3 days, he said. Derek stared. 3 days for what? On day 1, Jake said, you will call Senna Park at the number I'm going to give you and you will deliver a full and sincere apology. Not a legal formality. Not something a union lawyer drafted. A genuine acknowledgement of what you did and why it was wrong. He paused. On day 2, you will submit your letter of resignation from the Eastfield Police Department, effective immediately, citing personal reasons, making no noise. Another pause. And on day 3, those 2 things having been done, you will never see or hear from anyone connected to me again. Your life continues. Quietly. In a different direction. Derek was breathing harder now. You can't make me resign, he said. I'll go to internal affairs. I'll tell them. Tell them what? Jake said without heat. That you were brought here in your jogging clothes and spoken to politely. He adjusted his cuffs. You can resist, he said. That is your choice and I respect that it is your choice to make. But consider something very carefully. You have spent your career believing that power protects you. That the institution of your badge makes you untouchable. He leaned down. Hands on the table. Close. I am not an institution, he said very quietly. I have no bureaucracy. I have no complaint process. I have no backlog. When I decide something needs to happen, it simply happens. He straightened. Marcus, he said. Marcus stepped forward and placed a small card on the table. Senna's number, handwritten. 3 days, Officer Callum. Jake walked to the door. Paused with his hand on it. The water is for you, he said. It's a long ride back to the park. He left. Derek sat in the chair and stared at the card on the table. His hands were shaking. In the corridor outside, Marcus and Tommy stood quietly. He looked terrified. Tommy said. "Good," Marcus said. "You think he'll do it?" Tommy asked. Marcus thought about it. "Men like that understand two things," he said. "Power and the removal of it. He has never had the second one happen to him before." "He'll do it," Marcus said. Senna sat on her couch that evening with a cup of tea and her phone in her lap and looked out the window at the city doing its ordinary nighttime things. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "Be patient. 3 days." She knew her brother. She knew what 3 days meant. She typed back one word. "Okay." She set the phone down and went back to her window. That same evening, Jake had dinner with their mother at the restaurant. Mrs. Park poured tea without asking whether anyone wanted any. She didn't ask about Senna's arrest. She already knew. She didn't ask what Jake was doing about it. She already knew that too. "She's strong, your sister," Mrs. Park said in Korean, pouring. "She was strong from the beginning." "I know," Jake said. "You don't need to burn the world down for her, Jae-ho." "I'm not burning anything down." She was quiet for a moment. "Just make sure whatever you do," she said, "she can still look at herself clearly in the morning. She's not you. She doesn't have your capacity for the gray areas." Jake said nothing. "She wants justice," his mother said. "Make sure what you give her is actually that." "It will be," Jake said. His mother studied him. The way she had always studied him. Since he was 12 years old and already had that stillness that told her he was not like other boys and that loving him would require a kind she would have to learn as she went. She reached over and patted his hand once. "Eat more," she said. "You always look thin when you're working." Derek had not slept. He sat at his kitchen table on the morning of day one in a t-shirt and jogger pants and stared at the small card. He picked up his phone. He put it down. He made coffee and stood over the counter staring at the wall. He was a man recalculating everything. He had spent years in a system that covered for him. His union rep had walked him out of 2 complaints. His sergeant had buried reports. He had never once faced an external consequence for anything. But this was different. He didn't have a full name. He didn't need one. He knew what men like that were. He had been on the force long enough to understand what it meant when someone knew your schedule and your apartment number and your Thursday nights and spoke to you without raising their voice and was not afraid of anything at all. He picked up his phone. He dialed. Senna's phone rang from an unknown number. She stared at it. Then she answered. "Hello," she said. A pause. "Is this Senna Park?" said a voice. Low. Rough. Different from the voice at the car window. Less certain of itself. Her hand tightened on the phone. "Yes," she said. Another pause. "This is Derek Callum," he said. "I was the officer who pulled you over last Tuesday." Senna said nothing. "I'm calling because," he said. A long pause. "What I did was wrong. The stop was pretextual. The way I handled the search was inappropriate. When you pushed my hand away, you were responding correctly to something I had no right to do. I manufactured the assault charge because I abused my position. I made you feel unsafe and then I used the system to punish you for defending yourself. That was wrong." He struggled with the next words. "I'm sorry," he said. "For the stop. For how I spoke to you. For the search. For the arrest. For the hours in that station. For all of it." Senna stood very still in her apartment. Outside, the city continued. A car horned somewhere. A child's voice. The ordinary noise of people living their lives. She was quiet for a long time. "I want to ask you something," she said. Okay, he said carefully. Was I the first? She said. Silence. The way you moved, she said. The way you escalated. It was rehearsed. It was practiced. So I want you to tell me. How many other women have you done that to? A longer silence. I don't know, he said. Barely audible. Senna closed her eyes. You don't know because you stopped counting, she said, or you don't know because you never started. Derek said nothing. She opened her eyes. Your apology is noted, she said. Don't call this number again. She hung up. She stood in the middle of her living room. Then she walked to the window and pressed her forehead against the glass and allowed herself to feel all of it. The anger. The complicated weight of satisfaction. The grief for every woman who had stood on a road like that one and never received a phone call like this one and never would. She took a breath. She texted Jake. Day 1 done. His reply came in seconds. I know. The following morning Derek Callum walked into Eastfield Precinct for the last time. He passed through the bullpen. A few colleagues nodded. One called out a greeting. He didn't stop. He went directly to the watch commander's office and knocked. Chief Harold Burton looked up. Callum, he said. What's this about? Derek placed the letter on the desk. My resignation, he said. Effective today. Burton picked it up. Read it. His eyebrows rose. Today? You're serious? Yes, sir. Callum, if this is about the park complaint, the internal inquiry is still. It's personal reasons, Derek said. It's in the letter. Burton studied him. Something in Derek's face was different. Something that had been there before was gone. Derek, Burton said. Talk to me. Union rep can be here in 20 minutes. Whatever happened we can work through. I don't want the union rep, Derek said. Quiet. Final. I'm done here. A long silence. Burton looked at the letter. Back at Callum. All right, he said slowly. If you're sure. I'm sure. Derek turned and walked out. In the bullpen a few officers glanced up as he passed. He didn't look at them. He went to his desk and took out a photograph and a small desk calendar and put them in his jacket pocket. He walked out of the precinct into the daylight and stood on the front steps and took a breath. Across the city Marcus received a text from Tommy. He's out. Letter submitted. Marcus showed the screen to Jake, who was in the middle of a meeting. Jake read it. He nodded once. Back to the meeting. On the evening of day 3, Senna and Jake sat together in the private dining room. Not talking business. Just eating. Korean food the way their mother made it. Simple and careful. The city glittered beyond the window. He called me, Senna said. I know. And he resigned. Yesterday, Jake said. She looked at her food. Is it enough? She asked. Jake looked at her. He's still out there, she said. He doesn't have a badge, but he's still who he is. He could do it again. To someone else. There are things I can guarantee and things I can't, Jake said. I can guarantee he will never come near you again. I can guarantee he will live with the memory of that room for the rest of his life. Whether he becomes a different person or carries his nature somewhere else, that part one cannot control. Senna was quiet. What I can tell you, Jake said, is this. Every complaint filed against Derek Callum from this day forward will be properly investigated. Diana has made sure of that. Because he no longer has the protection of his badge. Because the watch commander now understands that oversight matters. Because Diana has planted something in that precinct that will grow long after this is over. You had her do that, Senna said. While all of this was happening. I don't just deal with the immediate problem, Jake said simply. I deal with the environment that created it. Senna stared at him. "You're terrifying, Oppa," she said softly. A hint of a smile crossed his face. "Rare and genuine. Only when someone touches my sister," he said. She laughed. Not a big laugh, but real. Jake poured her more tea. Later that night, Senna sat at her drafting table with her camera in her hands, not photographing anything, just holding it. She looked at the wall of her prints. The faces she had found and stopped and made permanent. She picked up her phone and called. It rang twice. "You should be sleeping," Jake said. "I wanted to say thank you," she said. "You don't need to." "I know I don't need to. I want to." She paused. When he called and apologized, I believed him. Not that it was enough, but that he meant it on some level. Because whatever was in that room with you, whatever you said to him, reached somewhere real. Silence on the line. "What did you say to him exactly?" she asked. A pause. "I made him feel it," Jake said. "Feel what?" "What you felt." Senna was very still. "Thank you, Oppa," she said quietly. "Lock your door," he said. She smiled despite herself. "My door is locked." "Good night, Senna." "Good night, Oppa." She set the phone down. Looked at her camera one last time. Set it carefully on the table. Turned off the light. Went to bed. 3 weeks later, a news alert appeared on her phone while she was photographing morning light on her wall. Eastfield Precinct Officer Derek Callum resigns amid conduct review. Formal investigation underway into prior complaints. She read it. Put the phone down. Went back to photographing. In his apartment that same morning, Derek sat with a cold cup of coffee and stared at nothing. The badge was in a drawer. His phone buzzed with a job application alert. He picked it up. He thought about the warehouse. The table. The man in the suit who never once raised his voice. He thought about Senna's voice on the phone. He thought about what he had said. I don't know how many. He closed the alert. He sat with it. On a bright morning some weeks after all of this, Senna walked through her neighborhood with her camera. She photographed a woman laughing into her phone outside a laundromat. 2 children chasing a dog down a side street. An elderly man reading a newspaper in front of a bakery. A street vendor arranging mangoes in the early light. Ordinary life. Beautiful ordinary life. She moved through it with her eyes open. She stopped at an intersection. The same kind of intersection. The same quality of morning light. A patrol car rolled past. Senna watched it. She didn't tense. She didn't step back. She raised her camera. She took the picture. She kept walking. Power assumes it is permanent until the moment it discovers it isn't. Derek Callum never returned to law enforcement. A formal investigation into his conduct resulted in 2 additional complainants coming forward. Both received official apologies from the Eastfield precinct. Senna Park continued her work as a documentary photographer. Her next project was a portrait series on women who had reported police misconduct. It was exhibited in 7 cities. Jake Yoon attended the opening. He stood in the back. He didn't stay long. He never needed to.